So up next, we've got missing numbers. So again, this is the same thing. It's just more counting, except now we are presented with some numbers. We're asked which one is missing. The next number is 9. And as promised in the Common Core standards, we are now beginning to look at numbers like 13, 14, 15. Once we're done with the small numbers, which are all within 1 to 10, we're now going to start talking about numbers that have 2 digits. And it's now a good time to start talking about how that 1 in front of the 15 is actually one set of 10. And there will be a lot of sort of visual methods that we will use in the future to deal with that. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Same deal. What number is next? It's clearly 5. Moving on. Type the missing numbers in the boxes. So between 7 and 9 is 8, and after 11 is 12. And you'll know that your student or your kid or whatever is beginning to get this really well when they can look at 7 and 9 and know that 8 is in the middle without having to count all the way up. Because that means that they've gotten all of the numbers right in their mind, like in order, rather than just reciting until they get to the one that they want. Like I do with the alphabet all the time. 10, 11 is next. And then, let's see, type the missing numbers in the boxes. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Phenomenal. That's missing numbers. Now we have numbers to 100. And I think that we are not really going to be asking students to count from 1 to 100, not just yet. We will be asking students to look at the patterns in numbers and see what they are. As a funny kind of side note, I had, when I was a little kid, and I mean like 4 or 5 years old, probably about the time I was learning about this, my mom told me to count sheep to go to sleep. So I did. And I got up to 100 legitimately because I knew all those numbers. But once I hit 109, I didn't realize that 110 was the next number. So I went from 109 to 1,000. And then when I hit 1,009, I didn't know where to go next. So I hit 1,000,009, and then I got confused. So I woke my mom up at like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., I don't know when it was. And she just told me to go the hell back to sleep, as well she should have. Okay, numbers to 100. I know that was a fascinating anecdote. I'm a math teacher. I am full of entertaining stories. Let's see, what's missing here? So there are 2 ways that we can look at what's missing here. And I really like that. We can either look at it as this green row here. It's the number before 52 and 53 and 54, so it's 51. But you can also look at it as the up and down column from 1 to 91, 11, 21, 31, 41, 51. And learning to count by tens is the first sort of move towards learning how to scale and how to multiply. So it looks to me like the missing number is 51. I am monitoring the chat, by the way. I do see that my students are having some fun, but folks who have actual questions, please do feel free to drop those in the chat, or if you have any comments, or if you have any tips and tricks that you use to answer questions like this, I would love to hear your perspective. I'm just gonna, let the rabble rouse as they do. It looks like what's missing here is between 47 and 49, so I'm gonna say it's 48. And this time I'll go by column, 54, 64, 74. So between 74 and 94 by tens, well, between 7 and 9 is 8, so that would be 84. What number is missing? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. That's an easy one. I mean, these are all easy ones, but... Again, it's important to remember that just because these problems are trivial to us grown-ups, that doesn't mean that we're not laying the foundation for something important. And a lot of the time when you see examples of arithmetic problems that are ridiculous, there are underlying factors that you and I take for granted that need to be actually stated to little kids so that they know how to use them, as opposed to folks like me who had to figure out how to use them without knowing what they were or what the patterns were. What number is missing? So 61 looks like between 67 and 69. Nice. God, I'm a child. 68. And then this is a nice easy one. It's on the first row, which means it's just back in small numbers territory. Between 7 and 9 is 8. But we could also see it, if we wanted to, as 0, 8, right? 0 in the tens place, 8 in the ones place, and in that way it still fits on this column. And that's numbers to 100. All right, up next we have counting tens. This shouldn't be too difficult. In fact, we were doing some of it earlier, so this should actually be an easier problem set than last time. 10, 20, 30, 40, between 50 and 70 is 60. Again, we are just reinforcing the idea that essentially what you're doing is you're taking the normal numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're multiplying them all, you're scaling them all up by a particular factor, in this case 10, right? You've got 1 times 10 is 10, 2 times 10 is 20, etc. And as a kid, I just remember, screaming out 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. One thing me and my parents did a lot when I was a kid is we played with slug bugs, but we didn't hit each other. We just kept count. And that was sort of an early introduction for counting for me as well, because every time I saw a bug, it was worth 1, and every time I saw one of the buses, one of the microbuses, it was worth 2. So, we kind of learned to count that way. Now, these 10 frames are something that if you are in a Common Core aligned classroom, your student may or may not actually physically see. What these are is a representation of the fact that when we get more than 9 of something, we create a second digit, we create the tens place, which is made up of groups of 10. So what I have here is boxes, each of which contains 10 frames or circles or whatever they are. And since there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them, the total is 90. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Either way is fine. If students are already beginning to understand multiplication at this stage, they should be encouraged in that and not held back. All right, let's count by tens. Between 70 and 90 is 80. I think I've belabored the point enough. Drag the 10 frames into the box to make 50 circles, right? If each one's got 10, then this is 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Counting by tens, again, between 40 and 60 is 50. Which 10 frames show 20? Well, 20 would mean 2 frames of 10, so that's A. And then finally, between 10 and 30 is 20. So that's counting tens, and we are making excellent progress.